Reflections on the Vicious Cycle of Modern Healthcare, through SGE-AI System, number 1402, October 23, 2025. Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation. Category: Diabetes. Mission statement: I write these medical papers not for fame or recognition, since I have already lived a long and successful life, though not always a healthy one. My purpose now is to share what I have learned about health, disease, and medicine, so that others can better understand their own conditions, prevent illness, and live longer, healthier lives. Preface: My health problems began with overweight and obesity starting in 1985, the root cause behind my later metabolic collapse. I was officially diagnosed as a type 2 diabetes, T2D, patient in 1990, and I suffered my first 2 cardiovascular episodes between 1993 and 1994. These were the initial warning signs of my growing vulnerability to mortality-related diseases. Looking back, in 2010, I weighed 220 pounds, BMI 32.5, clearly obese. Over the next 16 years, through self-learned knowledge, patience, discipline, and scientific self-management, I reduced my weight to 160 pounds, BMI 23.6, by 2025. That 27% weight reduction was not cosmetic, it was a matter of survival. My hemoglobin A1C dropped from 13% to 6%, representing a 54% decrease in average glucose resulting from that 27% reduction in body weight. This comparison clearly demonstrates the causal relationship between weight, cause, and glucose, effect, and how much more difficult it is to achieve sustainable weight reduction than to control glucose values, relatively speaking. I accomplished both goals entirely through lifestyle adjustments and persistent self-discipline, without taking any diabetes or weight control medication. Since 1994, I have survived a total of 5 cardiovascular disease episodes, as well as chronic kidney disease, partial retinal damage, retinopathy, near-toe amputation, due to neuropathy, and most recently, a hemorrhagic stroke, resulting from my long-term diabetic condition, which caused cerebral vessel calcification and was triggered by an acute hypertension episode of 175 mm of mercury on June 21, 2025. I survived not because of drug dependency, but because I self-studied internal medicine, by reading thousands of published medical papers over the past 16 years, and devoted daily effort to understanding over 4 million data points generated by my own body. From drugs to data, my June 21, 2025 stroke was caused 91% by the damage accumulated during the first 20 years. From 1990 to 2009, of my diabetes, when I relied entirely on various medications, and 9% by the subsequent 16 years. From 2010 to 2025, of drug-free, lifestyle-based health recovery. This 10-to-1 ratio clearly illustrates the dominant role that medication dependency played in the development of my recent stroke. The first period produced massive vascular calcification, which I personally observed through my CT films, while a single episode of acute hypertension, 175 mm of mercury around noon on June 21, 2025, triggered by emotional stress, caused the rupture of a cerebral microvessel near the pons area. The math of my own case proves that medications can suppress diabetic symptoms, but cannot cure the disease. I do not believe anyone could, or should, argue with me on this viewpoint. Diabetes medications may lower my glucose readings, but they cannot reverse or change the root causes of my diabetes. Whether viewed from the perspective of biological energy imbalance, insulin resistance, or silent arterial damage that accumulates over time. When I began using Libre continuous glucose monitoring, CGM, in mid-2018, the technology had just become available in the US, even though Europe and China already had it. That date coincided perfectly with my no-drug era from 2010 through 2025. Over 7.3 years, approximately 29 quarters, of continuous CGM Libre data. My custom medical AI-driven simplified glucose energy, SGE, model, analyzed 3 energy ranges, not TBR, TIR, or TAR, but calculated the energy area by multiplying time points on the x-axis, with the averaged glucose amplitudes on the y-axis. This energy-based approach revealed the following 3 long-term averaged glucose energy results. Hypoenergy less than 70 mg per deciliter 1%. Normal energy 70 to 150 mg per deciliter 87%. Hyperenergy greater than 150 mg per deciliter 12%. This aligns remarkably well with my medical history. The 12% hyperenergy during the drug-free years mirrors the 9% stroke energy cause contribution from that period, and the 87% normal glucose energy contribution, while the earlier 91% drug-heavy era's damage corresponds to a far higher cumulative hyperenergy burden before 2018. These ratios are not just scientific coincidences, they are mathematics and biophysics. They demonstrate that metabolic health follows energy laws. not just chemical control. It also demonstrates that clinic doctors should not focus only on average numbers, such as hemoglobin A1C or TEER, but should also consider glucose energy values, either the simpler simplified glucose energy, SGE, or the more advanced viscoplastic energy model, VMT. I do not expect most physicians to fully understand or comprehend the VMT energy concept, but the SGE principle can easily be understood and accepted by any high school student familiar with basic physics. Why energy matters more than range. Even the Libre manufacturer, which employs many talented scientists with MD or PhD degrees, and most clinical endocrinologists, do not yet understand or accept this energy concept. The CGM device manufacturer reports show only time and range. TEER, a horizontal measure of time points on the x-axis, but completely ignore glucose amplitudes on the y-axis, as shown in attached figure. Yet every high school student who has studied physics knows that a simplified measure of energy can be approximated by the area under a curve, where time is plotted on the x-axis and amplitude on the y-axis. My medical AI system, Chronic, calculates many different forms of glucose energy directly from continuous glucose waveforms, transforming those raw data into an energy field that reflects true metabolic stress. Traditional medicine measures how long glucose stays within a normal range, but not how high or how violently it oscillates. My SGE energy curve reveals the force or energy behind those fluctuations. The hidden stress that drives vascular damage. It represents the missing half of the equation that 99% of clinic doctors have neither understood nor accepted. The broader systemic problem. I have published over 1,400 medical papers and delivered more than 300 professional talks at various medical conferences. Yet this message is still largely ignored. The reason is simple: lifestyle-based prevention does not generate profit. The modern healthcare economy, a triad of pharmaceutical companies, medical insurance firms, and healthcare providers, is structured around profit, maximization, and continuous cash flow through chronic disease maintenance, not reversal. Type 2 diabetes is their ideal business model. Once it develops, it inevitably leads to CVD, CKD, stroke, dementia, and various cancers, each requiring lifelong medications, repeat doctor visits, frequent hospitalizations, and big medical bills. The tragic part is that many life-threatening mortality diseases are waiting in line to appear after obesity and diabetes take hold. What sustains the profit stream of healthcare industries only deepens the patient's suffering. I know this truth personally. I have been one of those patients for more than 4 decades. In addition, this does not include the anxiety and worry experienced by my loved ones after each of my health episodes. As both a patient and a medical research scientist, I do not want to see similar situations continue happening to others around the world every day. Conclusion: standing alone, yet standing firm. I often feel like a lone wolf in this medical field, even though I continue to produce independent, data-driven studies. But I also take comfort knowing that scientific truth has always faced resistance before acceptance. Ignaz Semmelweis discovered in the mid-1800s that unwashed hands by doctors cause deadly infections in women after childbirth. He was mocked and dismissed because his idea disrupted hospital routine and implied physician fault. Joseph Goldberger, in the early 1900s, proved that pellagra, which killed thousands in the American South, was caused by a lack of niacin, vitamin B3, not infection. Pellagra leads to dermatitis, diarrhea, and dementia. Niacin is an essential nutrient the body needs for energy metabolism, DNA repair, and maintaining healthy skin, nerves, and digestion. His research was rejected because it challenged powerful social and economic interests tied to the food industry. My own viscoplastic medicine theory, VMT, neural network medicine, NNM, and topological data analysis, TDA, reveal measurable, reproducible medical truths and insights for health recovery. When energy patterns stabilize through diet, exercise, sleep, and stress control, chronic diseases reverse. These are not theories, they are confirmed through millions of data points and rigorous scientific research methods. I will continue my medical research work quietly, scientifically, and independently. If my decades of research help even one patient understand that health recovery is a math, physical, engineering, and energy balancing process, not a pharmaceutical one, then my journey has been worth every effort. Disclaimer: this content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.